What's going on to all my boys fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again, breaking down the return of one of the most entertaining, bloodiest, and most diabolical show on TV. We're talking about The Boys Season 3, Episode 1, titled Payback, an episode in which we see Huey giving orders to Butcher. We have a co-captain situation in the 7, and Victoria's Secret is out of the bag. We'll be discussing that and so much more in today's spoiler breakdown review. But before we get into the discussion, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel and love early movie reviews, TV breakdowns, and live streams, well, come and join the community by subscribing and hitting that notification bell. If you all enjoyed this spoiler discussion, well, make sure you're liking and sharing this review, but more importantly, sharing your thoughts in the comments from your pros, your cons, and of course your thoughts and theories for not only next episode, episode 2, which I will be recording episode 2 and 3 after this review, but what do you all want to see in this new season? Soldier Boy, Herogasm? Let's talk about it all in the comments below. So as I just mentioned, I want this to be one of the many destinations you all may have in watching coverage of this new season of The Boys, because I will be covering this show every single week, and I hope you all can join me, and I'm so excited to be back in this diabolical world. We're about to break down this first episode. You all ready? All right, let's get into it. Full spoilers ahead as we open the episode with a pretty cool cameo. Now, this young lady here, she has made a cameo in another big IP comic book movie this year by the name of Doctor Strange, and now she's making her second, and I'm talking about Charlize Theron, who is playing Stormfront in the Dawn of the 7 film, as we're at the premiere night and we see the 7 watching the film, and Stan is in the audience as well. And I love that Stan is going to probably be more involved in this season as he was in season 1 and 2. Oh, I can't wait to see what he has up his sleeve this year. But speaking of the premiere night, we are there, and I just love this. And we know that the Justice League jokes were present in season 2 with the Joss Whedon rewrites, and now we even see the reshoots of Stormfront. We have the moment here where they mention hashtag release this film. I wonder if there's going to be other references of Justice League and how that film kind of came to be. You know, they even say that it was going to go to VOT Plus. I wonder if that was the last joke or if there will be a sequel in the talks for that film. Let me know your thoughts on that. But getting back into the premiere night, as we see Huey taking pictures, and we get a brief moment with Homelander having a brief discussion with Huey. We see A-Train having a discussion like, oh boy, have we come a long way since when we first met, and here we are together at premiere night. But it's in this moment too that we get our kind of introduction to a character by the name of Tony, who is calling Veronica by Nadia. So we'll be discussing who he is and his connections and him blowing things out of control a little bit later. But as we move forward, we see that Billy is now reporting to his new boss, who is no other than Huey himself. We also find out that it's been a year since the events of season 2, so it's been a whole entire year since all the shit went down last season. But it's in this moment, again, speaking to Billy, having to report to Huey. He has a new lead who we'll talk about who he's been getting his information from a little bit later, but he has a lead, and we see Huey, okay, I'll approve this mission, but listen, no killing, no blowing people's heads off. Let's just kind of keep this low key. So it is so great to kind of see this role reversal, because what I did in the last week or so, I went back to season 1 and season 2, and I have grown more appreciation and love for these characters in this show, but in particular the relationship between Huey and Butcher. It's such an interesting dynamic, and just seeing him having to take orders from Huey, which I don't think will be lasting too much longer after, especially what Huey finds out in this episode. But I love that power shift that we see. Let me know your thoughts on all that. You gotta love the Amazon product placement as Billy is ordering Connect 4, which we'll talk about that scene a little bit later here. But it's in this moment that things get pretty diabolical, as they are now on their lead. They're investigating this individual who's almost like an Ant-Man character, but he goes by the name of Termite. You gotta love that name. As Termite is showing everyone his party trick by having a little bit of fun with a Barbie doll, which we saw that scene there. But it's in this moment, and we don't get much more of this character, but we see Kimiko going off, and she runs into this character by the name of Taylor. Now, I believe, because I know I've seen some of the promotions and I've heard some of the cast talking about things to look forward to in the season, and we're going to be getting a musical. So I think it's safe to say that this soup, her powers are making people burst out in song and dance, which we see even Cameo later in the episode, she's playing the piano. So I'm looking forward to that musical, and I'm also looking forward to meeting more of this character and seeing her magical abilities to making people sing and dance. Let me know your thoughts on all of that. But look, this is what makes this show like no other. Let's talk about this scene here as we transition into Termite. He's having a little bit of an intimate moment with, I assume, to be either a fan or his partner. Yeah, he jumps, he crawls into his lower half and his penis, and he is pleasuring his partner and in the perfect fashion of the boys. A great way to be brought back into this new season. He accidentally sneezes, exploding his partner into multiple pieces, and it's good to be back. It is good to be back. What an opening moment. But let's actually go back into what goes down in this scene. As we see Frenchie steps in, we see that the termite attacks him, and Cameo gets into the mix, and we ultimately see that he's trying to jump into Frenchie's ass, but in comes Butcher. He saves the day. He puts the little termite in a cocaine bag, and he doesn't kill him. You know, he's a new man. He doesn't want to have as much vengeance, which we'll talk about his carnage party that he's going to be having with Homelander. But again, what a great way to bring these characters back. And Termite, whew, what a scene. Let me know your thoughts on all that. But let's get into kind of catching up with what our characters have been into, what they've been doing, as we are now seeing that Huey and Starlight are living together. We get a quick scene of Simon Pegg, who, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he was like involved in season 2 at all. I might be mistaken, but I don't remember seeing him. But I wonder if he'll play at all a part in this new season. But it's always great to see Simon Pegg. But again, Huey, Starlight, they seem to be on good foundations. We see that Huey is the man. He's a legend in the office, as people are like, oh, he's the one that stopped Stormfront. He is the boyfriend of Starlight. Things are looking pretty good for our boy Huey. And then we also see that this relationship between him and Veronica seem to be on a good foundation as well. But after what he finds out a little bit later, we'll see how much longer that friendship's going to last. But getting back into the conversation, we saw that at the premiere, that individual by the name of Tony, he's yet again trying to get her attention, trying to have a conversation with her, which he does a little bit later. Transition into that scene I mentioned regarding the whole product placement with Billy, the stepdad, as he's paying a visit to his, essentially, it is his stepson, because he is still technically, or he was still technically married to Becca. I like to see this side of Butcher. Of course, it's great to see him be diabolical, be evil, and be the more darker side of him, but it's also good to see the human side of Butcher. He is still keeping his promise. He's checking in with Ryan, and Ryan even gives him, which I think this is foreshadowing, he tells him he's still having these nightmares. And we don't know the full extent of Ryan's powers. We know that he has a lot of similarities to his dad, laser vision. He's probably going to fly eventually. He has super strength, but I wonder if he has some type of like ways into looking into the future. Maybe, again, we don't know the full extent of him being the first official born superhero, like original kind of born, not born from V. He was, obviously conceived in natural ways. So I wonder if he can see into the future, because I say that because he saw in his dream that there was just full carnage and his dad killed everyone, including himself. So I don't know. I think that is foreshadowing, and I'm also just very curious on how they're going to use Ryan in this season. Let's start to throw those theories and predictions in the comments. But let's catch up with one of my favorite characters, and that is the Deep, who's having a brief conversation saying hello to Homelander. And we see that Homelander, he's still on that pedestal. He does not want anyone to steal his spotlight, as we see that the Deep was interviewed first because he has his new book out there, which was titled The Deeper, which, by the way, was written by the ghostwriter of Shia LaBeouf. Again, the jokes that they throw in are so funny. But again, we see the importance of this scene is that he doesn't care who you are. He doesn't care how close you were. If you're a member of the Seven, he doesn't want you stealing his spotlight. And I think that's the main theme that we're going to see with Homelander this year. No one's going to get his way. And if you do, he might take you out. I'm talking about you, Starlight, which we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we catch up with MM in this episode, who's really not heavily involved in the episode, but I think he's going to have a big presence in the season. Speaking of present, he is there at his daughter's 10th birthday party. We also learn this scene that, unfortunately, which I think we kind of saw this coming based on what happened in season 1 finale with him having to put his family in a safe haven and whatnot, but him and his wife are no longer a thing. She's now dating this guy by the name of Todd, I believe his name was, which I'm just going to throw this out there now. I wouldn't be surprised if Todd, who seems to be a good guy, he might be a soup. I think he might be actually maybe someone that was maybe brought in by Edgar to kind of keep tabs on the boys, and if thing hits the fan, they can use this relationship as leverage. I might be wrong. Todd might be a good guy. He might just be a regular human being. But I don't know. I don't trust the individual there. Let me know your thoughts on Todd. Can we trust him? Is he a good guy? Let me know your thoughts on all that. But now we transition into the conversation here with V24. Now, Stan is having a meeting and he's talking about the future of V, and he gives this speech to the Secretary of Defense Stinger in regards to this V24 is going to give regular people, but in this conversation, soldiers, temporary powers for 24 hours. And he sees this as the future because he closes the door and he has little, I don't know if I can trust Stan in his conversations, if they're authentic or not, but he seamlessly is kind of venting to Stinger and like, hey, 5 years tops, I want to be out of the superhero business and I want this to actually be a pharmaceutical company, not a superhero company when we have to babysit them and do cover-ups. So he's saying that this is the future, giving them temporary powers and not giving them this infinite power of everyone. So I don't know if he's being honest there, and I'm very curious on what the side effects are after you take this 24-hour dose of V24. Let me know your thoughts and theories on all that. I don't know if you all noticed it, but when Stan was talking to the Secretary of Defense, the secretary said, I doubt that Congress is going to pass this. As soon as he said Congress and we see Stan, his response was, I have some people in Congress I can talk to, and we cut immediately to Victoria, which I think it's safe to assume that obviously this was an allude to their connection, that Stan is either A, working with Victoria, or B, she's working for him, or it could be the other way around, but it's safe to assume that that's a direct reference to them working together and her being like a part of VOT controlling everything, even Congress. So speaking of Victoria, she's talking to Huey about this fine of Termite and pretty much just telling him he's going to get a slap on the wrist. He's just going to go off to this retreat. And unfortunately, you know, you have to get these B-list, C-list type of soups that you're going to catch, which obviously we see Huey giving the news to the boys. And another pivotal scene, a quick scene, but it's in this moment where, again, we're seeing Huey giving the orders on what's going on. And it's more importantly to note that Butcher, man, this happiness, you know, we see Frenchie and Kimiko having a good thing going on. Huey's moving on. MM's moving on. At least he's alluding to moving on. We'll talk about his scene at the end there. But I think we're really seeing that, and this is so paralleling what's going on with Homelander, what's going on with Billy. They have a lot more in common than they naturally think they do in regards to being in a position of less power is something that we're seeing in this framing of being alone and being afraid of being alone. I think that's a theme that we're really going to see tackled with the Butcher character in this season, and I can't wait to explore those elements of the character and also exploring more about what happened to his brother and how he, or it's not say how he, we know he took his life, but why did he take his life? I'm really interested in learning and peeling that onion back and diving deeper into Billy the Butcher, because he's my favorite character in the show, and I think Carl Urban is so great in this role. But we see that Stan calls a important meeting with Starlight and Homelander, and this is where real power is being handed to her, as we see Stan giving her some very encouraging statistics, saying that she is the highest rated superhero in VOT with a 96%, and now she's getting a promotion. She is now the co-captain, which we obviously know Homelander isn't too happy with this news. He steps out for a minute, but Stan is pretty much telling Starlight, as we know that Homelander can probably hear this, as he says, but he doesn't care. He's like, listen, if you really want to be a part of this kind of change in the new 7, you can have the full power in your hand. You can control kind of decisions being made. And initially, again, Starlight, she denies to take the position, but we also see she just decides to do so. But I think the question I have for you all is, will this power be beneficial to the boys, or will she be corrupted by this new power? Again, Starlight, she's been a beacon of hope. She's been really the real hero of this story so far in regards to trying to be the most realistic kind of middle person in the situation, wants to make a change, but wants to do it from within. I wonder if that's going to corrupt her, because what's the great quote from the Batman? You know, you live long enough, you die a hero, or live long enough to become the villain. We'll see if Starlight will go on this path of making change, or if she'll be corrupted. Let me know your thoughts on all of that. We cut to American Hero, which is where we meet Supersonic, who is a former boy band member of Super Sweet, and he went by the name of Drummer Boy. But it's in this moment that we learn that he's competing to be the next member of the Seven with this show by the name of American Hero, which I think is a play on American Idol. We learn that he's had a past relationship with Starlight, which we see Huey is not a big fan of that, and we'll be interested to see if we get more of Supersonic. I don't know if they alluded to what his powers are. Supersonic, I imagine, is some type of sonic power, speed, or vibrations, loud vibrations. I'm very curious on what he's going to play into the season. Let me know your thoughts there. But again, it is important to note that Huey is very jealous of this, and I'm very interested to see where this story goes. But now it is time to have the conversation about Homelander. Again, power, him losing his mind as he's having a quick conversation with A-Train, and he pokes fun on him. He embarrasses A-Train, talks about he's putting on some pounds and he's not looking in the best shape that he should, being a part of the Seven. And we see A-Train whisper something like F you to Homelander, which we know he can hear everything, and this is where he embarrasses him. He grabs him by the back of the head and he tells him he puts him in order, puts him in check, lets him know who the leader is, and we see that ultimately A-Train apologizes for this remark, but Maeve sees this and she wants to set up a meeting and talk to a character and give him some information that we'll discuss here in a second. But we go to a scene that I absolutely was shocked by. I didn't know, I assumed she was going to be in the season, but I didn't think she was going to be in episode 1. I'm talking about the return of Stormfront, who's recovering, and we see that she is kept in Homelander's main mansion in the tower, and they're having a conversation, and the conversation leads to, Stormfront wants to help her lover boyfriend relieve some stress, because he has a lot of stressful things going on, especially with the spotlight being taken from him and being a co-captain of the Seven. She relieves him, to say the least, but this moment is broken up because, she still is going on her, what you're here to do and your purpose in leading the race of white people to take its supremacy. He is not about that life, and that moment's broken up. But again, I want to go back into Stormfront, a character that was absolutely despicable, disgusting, hated the character, but love the performance and love the dynamic of Stormfront and Homelander. And I'm just very curious to see what they're going to do with Stormfront. Is she going to somehow be able to recover? I don't know if there's a soup out there that can help people grow their limbs back and grow back some type of way. Very intrigued to see what they do with Stormfront this season. Let me know your thoughts and theories on that character. And do you think she will play a big role in this season? Let's have those conversations in the comments. But getting back into it, we have a conversation that we talked about earlier with Maeve. She meets with Billy, and it's in this scene here that she is the one that's been feeding the boys inside tips, and she gives him a big one here, which is the tip on Soldier Boy, who is believed to have died by the hands of some type of super weapon that they're going to be searching for to use to take out Homelander. But we also get our reference to the Payback, which was a popular superhero team before they were overtaken by the Seven, and it's safe to assume that we're going to get some of those characters that make their way into the season, because we see at this point she's just playing Santa Claus at this point. Maeve gives him another big find here, which is she tells him and gives him the V24, tells him it gives you 24 hours to be a soup. We know how Butcher feels about soup, but if he wants to level the playing field, he's going to have to take that. Now, I haven't read the entirety of the Boys comic book. I'm very familiar with some of the major plot points of the comic, and I know that there is a point when they do take V to level the playing field. Oh boy, I cannot wait to see who else in the Boys decide to take the V, which we'll talk about some of those predictions at the end of this video. But Maeve is doing her thing and giving him his tip. And again, Soldier Boy, the Payback, I am very excited to learn more about these characters in the future. But getting back into it here, we see Billy he's starting to pour the V24 out, but then he gets a visit from his old friend Homelander. And I love the little Easter egg that he puts the V24 and his the dog that is his best friend. I love that little Easter egg there. But they're having a conversation. I'm going to tell you all right now. Seeing Homelander and Billy in a scene together, I love their dynamic. I love the hatred that they have to each other. But also, as I mentioned earlier in this review, there's so much to compare with the two. They have so much in common, and they're just kind of sparring words, giving, touche when he brings up all the stuff that Homelander's going through, and Homelander brings up how he's alone and how he's, doing these things and whatnot. But then it comes down to, let's cut the shit and let's get to it. Why are you here? Well, Homelander's there to, I guess, team up, you can say, with Billy the Butcher. And what I mean by team up is really kill each other, go at each other's throats, as he offers him to go to this complete out carnage battle, blood and bone, last man standing wins. And I'm just so, and of course, we see Billy takes the bait, and he's looking at that vase of his dog with the V24, and he knows he's going to have to take that. But I'm just so curious on what Homelander has up his sleeve. Now, of course, he's the biggest and baddest and toughest and strongest superhero on the planet, or to say super or soup of the planet. But I'm just wondering who Homelander, again, he could take on a lot of people, but who does he have on his side? I wonder if he has some tricks, some secrets. Again, Stormfront getting her back to her feet. I'm very curious, and I can't wait to see this all-out battle between the boys and whoever Homelander has on his side. Again, he's a Superman in this world, so he doesn't need a lot of help, but he's going to need some help, especially when Billy shoots up that V24. I can't wait to see how that shapes up. But as we wrap up the episode, we do see that MM isn't done with the boys, as he's been keeping tabs on everything, including the payback. We see that Huey, and this is a big moment here, he follows Victoria as she meets with Tony, and he listens into the conversation, as one of the things that he mentions is Red River. Now, for those that have read the comics, know that the Red River was mentioned several times in the comics, but they don't explicitly say what Red River actually is. I'm assuming it's either some type of program or some type of black ops type of group. Maybe the Payback members were a part of it. Maybe there's other members that have been a part of the Red River. Very excited to learn more about that. But we see Tony and Veronica, or Nadia as he calls her, they talk about getting back and letting people know about the Red River. And she says, okay, I'll help you. She's clearly lying. She's using her powers on him. Mind you, Huey's behind the garbage can seeing all this take place. His nose starts to bleed, and they have a bit of a battle there. Ultimately, it ends in a pretty awesome bloody scene here as she blows off his hand first. She uses her powers to blow off half his mouth, and ultimately we see that she blows him up entirely. She makes a call to who I assume is Vought. She brings in a safe team to clean up the alley so the evidence won't be found. Again, she walks away. We see Huey sees all this at hand, and now the person he's been friends with for the last year, a person he's been a mentor of, or to say she's been a mentor of him, he's looked at her as like a beacon of hope, someone that's doing the right thing, getting the soups off the right way and not killing people like Billy. Now all that's changed, so I think it's safe to say that Huey's going to have to go back and do things the hard way, and I'm talking about the diabolical way and joining the boys. So what a great way to bring us back into this world, into these characters. A very good opening episode. I thought that this premiere episode was a lot stronger than last season because, in my opinion, I felt the first 2 episodes of season 2 was more of a continuation of season 1 and kind of wrapping up those storylines, where I feel like this is the definitive, this is where this new season is headed, with the Payback and Soldier Boy and seeing all the different things going on with V24 and Stan being involved more, the co-captain situation, his pride being in the way in regards to the spotlight being taken away from Homelander. So I thought this was a fantastic premiere, and I have some thoughts and theories and predictions, some questions I want to pose to you all with the boys moving forward. Starting off with one of the big ones here and kind of recapping the major moments. Obviously, we see that there's a connection between Victoria and Vought and Stan. Who's really in control? Is it them working together? Is it Stan taking orders from her? I think it's safe to say it's probably the other way around. So it's going to be interesting to see where that dynamic stems from, how long she's been a soup, who else in Congress and higher up positions is, a soup. I'm very intrigued to see what happens there. We know that Payback will play a big key in this role, and also finding the whereabouts of Soldier Boy, but also were they corrupt as far as the Payback, and just seeing the dynamic of when we do get Soldier Boy, which I can't wait to see his appearance, where his mindset's going to be in regards to taking out Homelander. many more things to discuss there. And also, of course, we got to talk about, we know from the trailer, Billy does ultimately take the V-24, but is he going to go ahead, very similar to the comics, is he going to give the V-24 to Frenchie, MM, and also Huey, which if Huey gets powers, I wonder what his ability will be. Would it be just to cry and talk 24/7? Very, very intrigued to see what those powers will look like and who decides to take the V-24. Let's discuss that. And then, of course, we got to talk about the new co-captain, Starlight. Will she be corrupt with this new power that she has here? And as I mentioned earlier, what role will Ryan play in this season? And also, we can't forget to mention the Church of the Collective and what is their role going to be. We know their leader got taken out in season 2. Have they replaced him? Are they still around in regards to their influence on decisions being made by the government? There's so much to look forward to, and that's just episode 1. Like I said, I'm about to watch episode 2. Keep an eye out for that review coming shortly after this, and of course, I'm going to give you all my review of episode 3 tonight as well. Thank you all for watching this review. I'm so excited to be back in this world, and I'm so excited to dive into episode 2. So with all that being said, if you stuck around to this point in the review, thank you so much. Before you leave, make sure to like this review, share the review, leave your thoughts in the comments, thoughts, theories, and predictions, and excitement level for episode 2. I'm excited to be covering this show for you all every single week, and I'll be back shortly talking about the next episode here. Thank you again for watching this review. Hope you're staying safe. As you can see on the screen now, come and join the community. Check out my review of episode 2. Check out my other recent reviews, and we'll catch you all on the next breakdown.